My name is Maria Robles, and I am an undocumented American. My journey began when my parents came to this country around 1979. They immigrated from Mexico, came to Texas, traveled to a few other states like Idaho, and ended up in California. In 1980 or so, my family worked in agriculture. My mother, a housewife with 2 kids, which was my sister and myself. In 1981, my father was killed, and my mother was then left a widow of 3 children and 7 months pregnant. My immigration struggle has started in '86. In '86, she married a U.S. citizen who petitioned for her and my sister and I. As she was in the middle of legalization through her husband that was a U.S. citizen, amnesty is approved at the end of that year. And so she starts another petition under amnesty. And she gets the news from her father and her mother that tells her to come home and help them. But she's the oldest in her family and I'm the oldest in mine. At that time, I was 11 years old, and she had 3 other children under the age of 11. So the only option that she saw was to send her oldest and help my grandmother with the care for my grandfather and their ranch animals like chickens and pigs, and make the journey to the hospital, which was about 2 hours away. The access to the bus was maybe twice a week. Make it easier on her and help them. So I traveled to Mexico in '86 with a temporary resident card that ensured that I would be able to come back. I ended up staying in Mexico for 11 months. My grandfather's leg was amputated from the knee down. His life was saved, but the next months were very hard. As they got situated, 11 months later, my uncle went to pick me up. It was a month before my temporary residence card expired. And as we came to the border in San Diego, the Border Patrol agent asked us if we were citizens, and my uncle showed him both of our cards as they were the same type of card, a temporary residence card. And the officer looked at it and just made a motion with his hand to let us in. From then on, 2 years later, my temporary residence continued to be renewed as my mother's and my sister's became permanent residents. I didn't understand what this meant. Late 80s, early 90s, I received a notice that says Notice of Intent to Terminate, and they want to know what emergent reason there was for me to be out of the country for X amount of months, of days. And my mom, in her limited knowledge of what should have happened, she looked to me for the answers. I knew how to speak English and read, and so we did what we could. We sent all the information in from the hospital, affidavits, letters. We submitted the proof as to why I was out of the country. A few years later, I get a notice. I need to go renew. And I go to the office and they tell me I can't renew because my case was denied because I abandoned my residency at 11 years old. They give me a paper that has pro bono attorneys. I go to an organization. By this time, I'm 18. They write up an appeal, and I continue to renew a temporary residence status. Years go by, and I continue to renew that. And in late 90s, I go to renew it again, and I'm told that my appeal was denied and that I was notified. By now, I'm over 21, and I ask, like anyone would, where is the green card that says that I signed for that notice? And the officer tells me, as long as the letter doesn't come back, we deemed it has been received. And so my mother starts again a new petition, petitioning for her daughter over the age of 21 that's unmarried. Out of that petition, I'm able to now get a work permit. I no longer have temporary residence. I switch over to just a work permit, which I renew every 2 years. That goes on for at least 20 years. My mother, when I moved to Texas, she stayed behind in California, and God works in mysterious ways. In 2005, she moves to Texas, and in 2010, she's diagnosed with stage 3 lung cancer, even though she's never smoked. Of course, me being her right hand, and with the strength of God, we get her the care that's needed. And by this time, my oldest is now 21, and I think she can petition for me. So she files a petition for me, and a petition from a direct, immediate family member has no weight. So the attorney tells me, we can submit the adjustment of status immediately, but you must know that there is a chance that it could be denied and that you could be put in removal proceedings. It's up to you. At this point, I know that my mom is on her deathbed, that she's on chemo, that I'm her caregiver, and I can't afford to be away from her even a minute. So we postpone that and continue the journey with my mom, just renewing my work permits. In 2014, God calls her home, and then my daughter is able now to petition and do the adjustment of status. We filed the adjustment of status. I provide all proof that I came into the country legally. My attorney finds a memo, an internal memo of the INS, back then, what is now known as the USCIS, that says that their Border Patrol agents aren't doing their job, and they're not giving people coming in the right documentation to prove that they come into this country legally. After a long interview, the officer tells me that he believes all my proof, he believes what I'm telling him, and he's going to recommend a favorable outcome. A year and a half goes by, and this past Monday I get a notice that said my adjustment of status has been decided. And even though I have proof to some degree with my affidavit and the memo, because the application that my mom filed for me in 1997, because of what was put on that application, as far as to the question, how did you come into this country? And someone filled out without inspection. That letter now tells me that my adjustment of status in the country is denied, and that I must make immediate arrangements to leave the United States because I do not have permission to remain. And even though I've tried to do everything in my power to follow the immigration laws, to pay the fees, I'm once again faced with the possibility of my family being torn apart. But when some people say, why don't you do it the right way? I say, how? When they say, why don't you get in line? I say, which one? I've been in 4. When they say, why don't you wait your turn?
I say, how long, how many more years? I've been on this journey for 30 years. I share my story today, not for you to feel sorry for my family, not for you to advocate for me, because I know that God is with me and He will open the doors for me. And unlike many, many millions of people, I am blessed to be able to fight and have an avenue to fight. I share my story so that people that don't know someone in an immigration case can hopefully try to understand it's not a black and white system. It's not a decision that we want to make to continue to break the law. We are trying, but we are trying in a system that's designed to profit from our bodies and to separate our families. I also share my story to hopefully inspire people that are affected by immigration to come out and tell your story, and don't let someone define who you are. We need to take back our humanity and reclaim our dignity. I am an undocumented American. Thank you.